news and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause. Welcome to The Probable Cause. This is a podcast covering the criminal justice system in Allen County, Indiana, northeastern Indiana, and sometimes the state of Indiana. I'm your host, Jamie Duffy, a local journalist, and to my left is our co-host, Michael McAlexander, who is the Allen County Prosecutor. We do rely, and we will be relying very much today on his expertise. Also contributing is my right hand. She's still an anonymous celebrity at this point. She is very knowledgeable on navigating the court system because she lost her son to homicide almost 9 years ago. A very unfortunate thing, but sometimes when you go through that, you become very good at it. So today we're going to talk about sentencing and what goes into that. Sometimes it might seem arbitrary, but there are parameters to this. It's not exactly a science, but I guess you could almost call it a science. But first, let's talk about the courts. Mike, what's going on in the courts today?
Relatively quiet this week with the holiday this Friday. So all the trials got settled or disposed of one way or another that were set for this week.
That means just go make sure that you get a thunder vest for your dog, because we know fireworks in Fort Wayne are a big deal. So we do have some news on Allen County Community Corrections, and this is what I mean when we cover the state. So I know some of the knockabout lads out there, you know, I talk about them, are probably going to disagree, but Allen County Community Corrections got an exceptionally good rating after an assessment was done on all the community corrections programs across the state. Conducting the study was the Indiana Department of Correction and the University of Cincinnati. It was rigorous. The results were glowing, and IDOC praised the Allen County operation as a model for other counties at following evidence-based practices. I heard that a lot at the meeting, evidence-based practices. So I did write to IDOC to ask for a list because you were rated low adherence, moderate adherence, and then high adherence, which Allen County got high adherence, which is quite nice. So I wanted to know what counties got low adherence and moderate adherence, and have them not gotten back to me yet. Because I know some of the knockabout lads have some major complaints against some of the surrounding counties that are very small. They can get very petty, in my opinion. And I did want to read what they said, because I'm going to do this to make everybody happy. We sincerely commend Allen County Community Corrections for their leadership, dedication, and forward-thinking approach. Now, mind you, these are the people who are in charge of a good 10,000 people on ankle monitors, home detention, house arrest, drug testing, and also their residential services center, where I want to say up to maybe 250 people can stay.
It's like 231.
Right, 231, but they're never really at max because you can't do that.
They get pretty close because of the pod system.
Oh, I know. I mean, I think there's almost a waiting list to get in there.
There is.
And of course, that does keep you out of jail and sometimes even out of prison. They have not only shifted the paradigm, okay, but have gone above and beyond in serving their clients and the community as responsible and effective stewards of justice in their pursuit of the evidence-based practices. Mike here is the chairman of the Allen County Community Corrections Advisory Board, and JRAC, which is the state component. So Mike, go ahead and tell us, you're a steward. Tell us about this and how this all made you feel.
Well, I think it's a great tribute to Executive Director Kim Churchward and her very hardworking staff. They have managed to put in place almost all of the recommendations that the experts say we should be doing. and yet also running an operation that really strives to monitor these people very carefully.
Oh, they're
and
monitored very
tightly.
carefully. I can tell you that's what I hear about. But no, okay, keep going.
But that's due to their ability to recognize that we do have some people out there that are on these. They have committed crimes. This is a break for them to not be in a prison cell.
Right.
It also saves taxpayers money because it's cheaper to have them out and working than it is to have them just locked up. But it's a delicate balance on the people as to who's too dangerous, and the people that are in the programs, monitoring them to make sure that they follow the rules, they don't commit additional crimes. They do a very rigorous amount of drug testing and
Yes, they
demand very exact compliance with the rules. So they, I think, received that letter that reflects how well they've done, with very, very few criticisms or even suggestions for improvement. However, I also say yesterday with the new state budget that this part of it will take effect January 1. Allen County was notified that in the past years we've received roughly $4.4 million for probation services and community corrections, the bulk of that going to community corrections.
And that's from the state.
And that's from the state. Well, the state budget that you've all heard about reduced the statewide allocation for community corrections programs from $72 million down to roughly $66 million. And we received a corresponding reduction in what we will get. Community corrections will be down 355,000, probation 80,000, so a net loss to the county of nearly 350,000. That's going to require some tough thinking and action by county council, by community corrections, to determine how do we work with this reduction.
And you know county council.
Well, I
They're
know
a tough board to get money out of.
they are, and they should be. But I do think it comes down to what level of services do the taxpayers want. And this does save money from other areas. It just appears right now that the funding of the state is being pushed back on local communities if they want to maintain the level of services that they've had.
Well,
And
I mean,
these are
how did they get to this point? How is it that they under budgeted by, I can't remember the amount. How is it that they lost $1 billion in Medicaid last year? You know, and this is going on to the county. I mean, your people over in the jail don't get Medicaid anyway, which is, you know, that's a real tough job for the sheriff to deal with. And I'm just saying, I don't understand. Don't they have some forensic accountants to bring in, and let's figure out where that money is and how they could under budget? And, you know, I don't know. I've got more questions than answers at this point.
Well, I think we all do when it comes to budgeting. And in this budget, they also preserved, I believe, in the governor's discretion, $300 million to fund. I don't know if they're considered. I don't think anybody knows what the criteria is, but it was set aside for emergencies or governor discretion for Department of Corrections, Department of Child Services, and FSSA.
So that's going to be spread across. $300 million sounds like a lot of money, and it's not.
Well, and the governor also asked, I believe, state departments to pull back 5% and then also try not to spend 5%, an additional 5%. So I presume he will probably be trying not to spend that full $300 million as well. This is one where, you know, none of us like to pay taxes, but we also have to make some determinations. What do we want out of those services? And what services are we willing to give up? And we're seeing that at the federal level. I mean, I believe today some big vote happened in the Senate finally that they did pass the big beautiful bill.
The big beautiful bill.
And
we'll see how beautiful it is.
well, there'll still be a lot of negotiation on it.
Exactly.
But on this, it's gonna come home to us. County Council, I believe, meets a week from tomorrow, and is supposed to have preliminary numbers for all the county departments.
And you will be there, most likely.
I don't know if I'll be at the meeting. I don't know if we're going to get the numbers at the meeting or after they approve it. I don't think they're planning on having department heads make presentations. Our ability to make those presentations would be later in August or September.
Something for the whole county to look forward to.
Well, it's something that, you know, if you want criminal prosecutions, if you want criminals taken off the street, it costs money. I've talked before about our understaffing. We just got a new report yesterday from the Prosecuting Attorney's Council that, well, I don't necessarily buy these numbers completely. They're saying that Allen County is one of the most underserved as far as the number of deputy prosecutors that we have.
Because we have a lot of people.
Well, but it's saying that
we're approaching
this latest one at
the
time they did the snapshot, we had 34 equivalent full-time lawyers, and they're saying we need 71, and that is probably the biggest number in the state. But that's because we're larger. But
we could also use a couple
percentage-wise,
extra judges according to weighted measures. So.
But
Push
this is an issue, and that costs money. We've got 5 recent graduates that are going to start with our office next, in August and September.
So what schools are they from? Do you remember?
Some from IU, Ohio Northern. I'm not sure what the other ones are.
Notre Dame?
No.
See, they don't contribute. Anyway, let's get on to, I'm always trying to watch the time because we can really talk on this show. All right, so we're going to talk about felonies and sentencing and all of that. I think it was you, my right hand, who said, why don't we do one on that? I got some direction from her. We're just going to start out kind of like what the felonies are in the state, because I think a lot of people, if you're not involved, like I was never involved prior to becoming a cops reporter, and what the felonies were in the state, then you kind of need to know. And then when you're watching all your true crime stories, you might understand them differently. Like, for instance, Indiana doesn't have second-degree murder in this state, but they do in Massachusetts, where Karen Reed was charged and she was acquitted. So each level, we're going to talk about felony 1. This is the highest. They go from 1 to 6. Felony 1 felonies involve aggravated rape, drug dealing resulting in death, and home invasion with serious injuries. We don't get too many home invasions. I haven't seen one in ages.
Not in the sense that you think about from the movies and stuff.
There were a couple that I wrote up years ago when I was at the Journal-Gazette, and they were horrifying. I talked to both victims. So for a level 1 felony, it's 20 to 40 years imprisonment, $10,000 fine, and advisory sentence of 30 years. So don't be doing aggravated rape, drug dealing resulting in death, which a lot of people think should be higher than that. We didn't get around to murder, which is in a class all by itself, and that's 45 to 65 years. So, and the advisory, I believe, is 55. So level 2 felony, which is 10 to 30 years imprisonment, $10,000 fine, advisory sentence of 17 and a half years. Imagine 17 and a half years in a prison cell. Level 2 felonies include kidnapping and burglary causing serious bodily injury and voluntary manslaughter. I just got curious about other murder type charges and found that that one is a level 2. Level 3 felonies, and jump in if you have anything to say, can be aggravated battery and fleeing police resulting in death. That's 3 to 16 years imprisonment, $10,000 fine, advisory sentence of 9 years. I'm sure there's a lot more charges than that in level 3. Level 4 felonies include arson and unlawful firearm possession by a serious violent felon. Now, I see that one all the time, the firearm possession. That will give you 2 to 12 years imprisonment, $10,000 fine with an advisory of 6 years. So if you're a felon and you're caught carrying a gun, just look, the advisory is 6 years, 6 years out of your life. Level 5 felonies involve burglary, some drug dealing, and battery causing moderate bodily injury, reckless homicide, and involuntary manslaughter. That is 1 to 6 years imprisonment, $10,000. They all seem to be $10,000 fines. Advisory sentence of 3 years. Okay. Then you get down to level 6, which is also, it says, a $10,000 fine.
All the felonies are.
All the felonies are a $10,000 fine. Okay. The least severe can include theft, forgery, possession of controlled substances, kind of like the nonviolent crimes. Isn't an OWI, doesn't that start out as a felony 6 for the second
If
one?
you have a second OWI, yeah.
Right. That's 6 months to 2.5 years in prison and an advisory sentence of a year. So.
The biggest one there is probably theft.
Oh, really?
Well, just because a second conviction of theft, if you have a misdemeanor theft or misdemeanor conversion, then you commit another one, that can be enhanced to a level 6 felony, or if the value of the items you steal are more than $750. So that's one of the biggest charges across the state that's filed. But just a little bit about this structure 1 through 6.
Right.
That I think confuses people at times is a lot of the crimes can start somewhere, and depending on certain circumstances, they can kind of go up the ladder. So like burglary, one of the more common crimes, starts out as a level 5, and that's for, but if it's a dwelling, it goes up to a level 4.
Oh, interesting.
And then
if you burgle a business, it's not as serious as burgling a home.
Correct.
Okay.
And then it rises for different things like causing bodily injury, using a deadly weapon, causing serious bodily injury. So burglary, if somebody just says burglary, you need to know whether it can go from a 4 or a 5 up to a 1.
It has a starting point.
Yes. Battery, again, a common term, but that can start at a B misdemeanor and go up to a level 3 felony. So a B misdemeanor is maximum sentence 180 days, and the level 3 goes up to 17 and a half years.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the next thing I did want to talk about how charges, and then of course one of the things I've noticed is that sometimes when somebody gets charged with something, they might have 10, 13 charges against them, and then half of them are dismissed. Is that because the prosecutors are going to say, all right, we really got to get this guy?
No, it actually has more to do with, a lot of times the multiple charges are lesser includeds of each other. So for sentencing purposes, they merge. So you're not going to get a separate consecutive sentence for each of those counts.
When do they merge? Because lots of times you'll notice that they'll have all these charges, and then, as you're going through somebody's rap sheet or whatever you want to call it, all of a sudden you notice that this one got dropped or that one just. Right hand, do you agree with that? What I just said?
Well, I think that it's updated either after a plea bargain is struck or after it goes to trial. But it's commonplace for lesser includeds to be merged at sentencing, either way, I guess. I don't know, Mike, will they merge lesser included at sentencing under a plea agreement?
That's usually where we would drop or dismiss the count.
Do you expect to have to drop that account, or are you just like, you place it on there and then just say, okay, once we get to the negotiation of that plea deal, this is the one we can drop?
Well, that's not really working the right way we look at it. A lot of times we will put those on because we want that information to present to the jury that they also did this crime, even though we know it would probably be either by operation of law, be concurrent. A lot of on the lower level stuff, there's limitations on how much you can stack. I mean, this year's legislation, they had a case, I don't remember what it was, but somebody took like 10 misdemeanors and stacked them and gave somebody a 10-year sentence.
Oh, wow.
Well, this legislature that just passed it, taking effect today actually, limits that on a Class A misdemeanor to 3 years. And there's other sentencing things that go on that only allow you to go up to certain limits. So it's a combination of that, but usually we put all this other stuff on mainly because, one, they did it, and it may be stuff that we want to have the jury get as full of a picture as they can about what this criminal behavior. Or maybe
even the judge.
Right.
Sometimes it gives the jury an out as well.
Sometimes that happens as well.
They can't in good conscience convict on murder. They can possibly convict on involuntary or voluntary manslaughter, or sometimes
reckless homicide,
or felony murder where they didn't actually commit it but they were there.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where sometimes things can be done for a plea purpose of looking at, say, a domestic battery, where you want to give kind of an out on the end that we might file the felony but also file a misdemeanor, and then put in as a condition that if they successfully complete their felony probation, we dismiss the felony, but they'd still have a misdemeanor conviction. So it's a way of putting some incentives in. But overall,
I call them bargaining chips.
Well, it can be part of that as well. I mean, ultimately, we can go to trial on every case if we have to. But the problem you get into is resources, as I was saying earlier.
And time.
To do a jury trial at a minimum takes 1 day, even on a very simple case. And many times you're spending half a day picking a jury.
Oh, yeah.
And the formalities that are part of that just take time. And you're handling the jury, you're bringing people in, and then you give it to the jury, and you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we had a case recently, I think last week, where there was a burglary count, and they came back with a residential entry conviction.
Yes, and that was Jeffrey Harris, the one that I wrote up. It's on the probable cause, and they did knock that one down, but he had 3 other counts.
Right.
So he...
But it was one where they convicted him of the criminal recklessness. But for whatever reason, they didn't connect the burglary when he entered the place, which was the residential entry, and committed a felony by shooting the place up, which they convicted him of. But they didn't connect that to the burglary.
Well, because I sat through the first day of that trial, and I didn't connect the burglary either. What did he burgle? He did break in.
Well,
he broke in the back door.
To commit a felony. A felony is criminal recklessness. But this is where I think you get into...
Right, he got residential entry, which is also a felony, is it not? Okay.
But this is where there are certain crimes that I think the public struggles with because it doesn't fit what they think the crime is. And
well, we believe that a burglary should indicate that he took something.
right, and it doesn't have to.
Oh, Okay, well, there you go. Why did you say that right at first? Okay, so folks, a burglary, you don't have to steal something to have it be a burglary.
You can commit other crimes to enter.
Entering and doing any kind of crime is
Yes.
a burglary.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
and he was convicted of going into that house and shooting his gun around, and it was extremely dangerous. And they had a lot of people who got up and said, yeah, it was Mr. Harris. It was an interesting trial. It wasn't a murder trial.
I mean, I've used the strangulation as an example. People have this expectation that a strangulation is going to be around your throat, your tongue is going to pop out, and your eyes are going to bulge. And as the George Floyd case shows, there's two ways to cut off. You can cut off the air supply or the blood supply. So pressure on a chest can cut off the blood supply.
That's also called strangulation?
And that's also called strangulation.
Okay.
So there are sometimes the law has things that are not real clear.
Or interpretation.
Yes. So
Well,
So
let's
there-
go on to one where we
Exactly.
have the interpretation as far as the Pikes Pub attack. I do want to remind you of what happened. May 30th, there were 6 men wearing Outlaws Motorcycle Club gear on. We saw it on film. We saw them beat a black man. It enraged the community. The video went viral. And so now we have the prosecutors, and Mike won't be able to speak to all of this because it's his office. They have added an enhancement, which is a count 3 of criminal gang activity. Now, they've already been charged with level 5 battery with serious bodily injury and misdemeanor B, criminal recklessness. They will now, if it's actually the magistrate, Sam Kierans, who has it August 11th, if he agrees to that, then they will have this enhancement. My question to Mike was, why is it an enhancement and not another felony? Can you talk
Well,
about that?
the enhancements are done in addition to the criminal charge. Probably the one that is most familiar for everyone is the handgun enhancement.
That's at the end of a murder trial. If you did use a gun, it can add up to 20 years to your sentence. However, the jury has to find you guilty of that separate charge.
Correct. So that is a frequent, that's probably the most common one we file on most of our murder cases that are using a gun. And that, as you said, 5 to 20 years that goes on top. It's called an enhancement as opposed to a separate, I mean, it is considered a separate, it's not considered a separate charge. It's an enhancement once you get a conviction on an underlying charge.
Mm-hmm.
So the criminal gang enhancement is similar to that. Once you prove the other crime, you then can present to the jury the criminal gang side of it. And if it is done and the jury agrees, it can be up to essentially doubling the underlying sentence.
So, and I do want to
And
say,
I need to say about Pike's Pub
yes,
that they are presumed innocent until trial. We did file the enhancement on Friday. And I think we also asked for joinder to try all 6 defendants together.
oh my goodness, that's going to be an interesting one. I did want to say in both the stories that articles actually, that I've written about the Pikes Pub attack, it's either 2 or 3, and you can find them on our website and on our Facebook page. The Department of Justice has the Outlaws Motorcycle Club on a list of criminal gangs who are involved in drug trafficking. So that's why I started thinking when I saw that added enhancement, if you will, that possibly this would become a federal case. I mean, after all, if you're talking about drug trafficking and you're talking about criminal gangs, etc., I've seen other ones go to the feds.
Yeah, but they're not charged with drug trafficking or any of those
Right.
charges that the feds would be interested in.
Right. All I'm saying is a criminal gang, however. That to me just says criminal gang. So, I'm sorry, federal charges. That's why I'm confused. But maybe it won't. I mean, it's going to be an
Well,
exciting day in your courtroom when that trial takes place.
Yeah, the feds have various different crimes than we have. I think they have hate crime legislation. They've got civil rights violations they can do. They tend to move a little slower than state court does.
Okay, here's another question. If in fact this goes to the Allen County Court, which looks like it will.
Well, it is in the Allen County
They could
Court.
take a plea deal. We don't know. They are all lawyering up. As far as I noticed when I went on there, I haven't checked all 6 of them. And one, by the way, does have an added strangulation charge. If they are convicted, I'm not saying they will be, they could be found innocent because you're talking about juries. Could then the feds pick it up?
No.
No?
Wouldn't that be double jeopardy?
It depends what they do with it. Everybody uses the OJ case. If you remember, there was a civil case afterwards. There have been some other ones where the feds, after a state court prosecution or in tandem with the state court prosecution, have brought different charges. So it's kind of tricky. We don't see it very often. I don't know if the feds are interested in this case or not.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they were, and the only reason I say that is that somebody said, "Oh yeah, they investigated those guys a few years ago." I don't remember it, so I might not have been back to Indiana yet. So, anyway, so that's what an enhancement is. Basically, you don't add the count. The count gets added after a conviction, if in fact there is a conviction. Otherwise, it goes away. And that will be in the Allen County Court eventually, because they will be tried together, which is interesting. We haven't had one of those for a long time either.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly rare. And usually you've got evidence against one co-defendant that you don't try them together because that evidence would prejudice another one. Either a statement made by one so that if it implicates both of them, you'd want to use it against the person.
Right.
But if they've got a co-defendant and they didn't make the statement, then so you have to separate their trial.
So I also wrote to the Indiana Supreme Court, and I said, does the Supreme Court keep track of sentences and sentencing, like charges that are filed? She really wasn't sure what I was asking. But here's the answer from a defense attorney here, a local one. They will say no, but I bet you there's an algorithm sitting in Indy someplace that monitors all that crap.
I believe there's stuff on their website. This study that IPAC just did took their data on the number of filings from Supreme Court data, I believe. So I'm guessing Odyssey totals that stuff up. One thing, when we went on the prosecutor's case management system, we were the last county in the state not to be on it. So that should help with statewide record keeping a little bit.
Now, just to figure out how you can get that data, it's not that easy. I mean, we've been through it, haven't we, my right hand? Like, we would try and find out, okay, how many people were charged with us and such, and I don't think we figured it out, did we? Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I said no. We never did figure it out, and I think a big part of it is because rarely is someone charged or convicted of just a single charge. There's other. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say rarely. It happens a lot, but more often than not, they have multiple charges. So how do they characterize those? Do they give them, put them in each a check mark in each box, or how do they quantify people that have multiple charges? I think most of the time it goes based on the highest charge.
Yeah, that's probably right.
I think that's generally true. And that's kind of like when there was a lot of discussion about who was in the jail, and people would say, so-and-so's in there for possession of marijuana. Well, hardly anyone was in for possession of marijuana alone. They were either on a probation revocation or a violation of pretrial services or something like that.
Right.
Or that was count 3 or count 6, and they were held on other things that were more critical.
And I mean, that's what gets confusing for me too when I look at the prison data that IDOC puts up, and I'll see that somebody's in, they'll list it by their charge why they're in it. And there are people literally in prison for possession of cocaine, for instance. I know that person, and I'm just like, I checked, that's what he's in there for. But so sentencing ranges are a guideline, and judges can impose sentences within the range based on aggravating or mitigating circumstances. This is also something that people get confused, aggravating and mitigating.
Well, and the other term that we need to throw out here is advisory, because
That was my next one.
well, the way I understand it, and especially in the higher level charges, is the judge is supposed to start at the advisory sentence and go longer for aggravating circumstances and subtract years for mitigating circumstances to come to arrive at there. Like, technically is a real sentencing formula. It's not just arbitrary. In between these two numbers, the judge gets to pick what the sentence is going to be.
I don't think they're allowed to be arbitrary. That's one of the things I was trying to get the Indiana Supreme Court. Do you monitor people who maybe go way beyond the advisory or way under the advisory?
They probably don't do much on going way under. Going over, the appellate courts have the ability under Rule 7 to revise sentences if they appear to be
Harsher.
too harsh. So the idea is they want to reserve the maximum sentence for the worst of the worst.
The worst of the worst. I hear that in court all the
There's
time.
obvious.
You're not the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's why they use that term.
Right.
Because certainly to the victim, they probably feel that that's the worst of the worst. But the judges are supposed to be looking at this in a more objective approach. There's clearly disagreement at times. I mean, no judge likes to have their sentence revised. And
maybe that's what I should have asked, how often they're overturned, because I don't think it's that often.
No, I mean, there's a fair, I mean, it's not unusual to have a sentence revised at the appellate level. Sometimes it is kind of meaningless.
Criminal or civil?
Criminal.
Okay.
There aren't any sentences in civil.
Oh, that's true. My bad.
It's just at times when we get into sentences that are essentially life sentences, whether the reality is, if you look at a lot of our homicide convictions, and that range on murder is 45 to 65, and the firearm enhancement is 5 to 20. So if you get a 60-year sentence on the murder and 20, so you got 80 years, that means you're going to be serving, under Indiana law, you do 3/4 of your sentence. So assuming good behavior. So you're going to do 60 actual years. So if you're 30 years old, are you going to live to 90 in prison?
You're going to die in prison, and that is my next point. So the U.S. Sentencing Project, which is a nonprofit, it's not out of any, I'm just setting this up, kids, all right? In Iowa, hands out the longest average prison sentence in the U.S. with an average of 94.8 months. That's 7 years and 10 months, according to a study. Indiana follows closely with an average of 93.6 months. All right, which is, they don't say how many years that is, but something around 7 years. Louisiana, while often associated with high incarceration rates, is ranked 10th in terms of average sentence length. But here's where it gets even worse. Based on the information available, the state that seems to have a particularly high number of individuals serving what are considered virtual life sentences, which can include sentences of 50 years or more, is Indiana. We give out the most. A report from the Sentencing Project indicates that Indiana relies heavily on virtual life sentences, with 16% of its prison population, that's nearly 4,000 people, serving these sentences. And it's disproportionately high number of virtual life sentences compared to life with parole and life without parole. So there's something to chew on there.
Well, our legislature in 2014 revised our criminal code. Folks used to serve half of their sentences. They would get credit for each day they served. Now it's a 3-for-1, so 75%. They didn't really change the numbers. Under the old code, it was 45 to 65 for murder. But because they changed it to serving 75%, it actually extended the actual amount of time that you would be in prison to be more than what the minimum was, or the maximum was under the old system. So if you got 65 before, you were 32 and a half years.
Which I think is plenty of time to actually mull over what you did, but that's just me.
Well, I mean, I think that's, at the time when they did that, they reduced the sentences on a lot of crimes, and they...
Oh, they did?
Oh, on the drug stuff, they took it way down, of possession and that kind of stuff. Some of the criticisms at the time by people like yourself were that we were putting drugs people in prison for too long.
You mean Mike, the person that I know?
Okay.
The one who's got cocaine possession. I've never been to jail or prison, and I don't intend to ever go.
But at the time, most of the attention was done on what they'd reduced. As time has gone on serious crimes, people are in for a longer period than what they were 15 years ago. So, obviously you can make an argument, what is the appropriate sentence? What is the appropriate sentence for killing somebody? And
my thing is like, when is enough enough? And also the charging. If you've got a choice between murder, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, and reckless homicide.
Well,
what was the intent? Because when I looked up involuntary, it meant that that person acted on sudden heat, and yet I often hear that when there's only the murder charge.
Voluntary is sudden heat.
Sudden heat, yeah.
Involuntary is when you're doing something and somebody dies. The classic is, I push you
and you go
to
over
get
a
out
cliff.
of my way, and you fall and hit your head on the edge of my desk and have a brain bleed and die. Reckless.
That couldn't just be an accident, or I guess there is some intent.
Well, if you're doing something bad to start with,
right.
Then reckless homicide is when you're doing something reckless. We probably see that the most in car crashes. Somebody's speeding or drunk. We have OWI causing death, but we also have sometimes very aggressive driving, or a combination of both, and we file reckless driving. And this is something that Indiana, I think I've said this before, but we don't have a negligent homicide.
Oh.
Which Ohio does, for example, and I believe other states do.
See, it was like reckless homicide, which is only a level 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's 1 to 6. I wouldn't mind those people having to serve more time, because if you get drunk behind the wheel and you kill somebody, why should you get off? When if you go out of your apartment and people are shooting their guns at you, and you raise your gun up into the air, and unfortunately that one bullet goes through the apartment across the way and ends up killing somebody, which did happen in Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. To me, that was reckless homicide. There was absolutely no intent to kill anybody in that.
Well, talking about sentencing, one of the most difficult crimes that I've dealt with is OWI causing death.
I have so little sympathy. I'm sorry.
Well, let me just run it, because I think this gives you a good idea when we were talking about starting with the advisory sentence, because it's very, I think, tough on the families of the victim on those cases.
Absolutely.
Because they come in, they have lost a loved one. It is usually sudden and random. And they come in to talk to us, and we have to explain that this is a level 4 felony. Not too long, only in the last, I think, 5 years did they switch it to a level 4.
What was it before?
It used to be a 5.
Ah. That's 3 to 18 for a level 4?
No, it's 2 to 12.
2 to 12, okay.
With an advisory of 6.
Right.
So they come in, and if the person doesn't have much of a record, we have to explain that we can start at 6, but we can't very easily get above 6 because we don't have aggravators. And aggravators can be past criminal history, if the victim is over 65 years old, if it's a hate crime, if you're on probation.
So what about if the victim's like a year old? Wouldn't that be an aggravator?
Well, batteries to children have a separate charge.
I'm just talking about when somebody's in a car. That happened in Huntington. I had to go down and cover that, where this professional man got drunk in his truck, one of those great big F-150s or whatnot, and rammed into a van, and a baby died. And I forget what he got. He had a good attorney, but
well, my
that
point
should be
is
more
that,
than a level 5, in my opinion.
Well, I don't disagree with you. When there's a death involved, it is very
Little
traumatic
baby.
to the victim's family and friends. But it's also very difficult to explain to them, by the time you work through some of this, that there's no guarantee that you're going to get the 6 years either. And a lot of times, if there's no past record, this is part of it, that while we start at the aggravators, that doesn't say that you have to start at 6 years in prison. That can be suspended. This is where you get into what is the attitude of the court, what is the attitude of the community, what is the attitude of the prosecutor, and how far can we push that? How strong is our case? Because we always have that issue that there's no guarantees, no matter how good you think your case is, that you're going to win when you go into trial.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm proud of our trial record, that we take good cases and we prep them well and we try them well. But you never know when the jury may do something, as we talked about the trial last week, where they didn't connect the burglary.
But they connected the other 3 charges, so.
Well, there's a big difference, though, between getting a conviction on a level 5 and a level 3 or 2.
That's true.
So.
He already has a sentence from another one, and I can't remember what it was. He's going to be spending some time in the clank.
Back to sentencing, Mike. So does the judge literally, like, if there are multiple counts that someone is convicted of, does the judge sit down and do the math on each charge to come up with the total years that can be?
Usually they do a sentence. They decide on each count, unless there's some limitations, if we put a cap in or something, or if the operation of law, the lesser included kind of idea, where they can't make them all consecutive. And sometimes the law imposes that. Sometimes it's up to the judge whether they want to do the sentencing consecutive, which just means the sentence on each count is gets served and then the next one gets served, as opposed to them being served together. Now, generally, if you have independent victims, I know we try to get a consecutive charge for each victim in that kind of situation.
You got to explain that consecutive means they serve.
Well, I just said you serve your sentence on this count, and then you move on and serve your sentence on the next count.
Right.
Whereas if they're concurrent, you serve the sentences together. So the longest sentence is basically your sentence.
All right, so when you see consecutive, you're in trouble.
Generally, that you're going to definitely extend your time.
So we are running out of time, but I found something really cool on Quora, so I just want to go over this. This is a guy who has a Fordham University School of Law that is in New York City, and he's talking about federal judges, which I know you don't have to deal with federal judges, right?
Right, we're in state
We're
court.
Right. So he said federal judges have too little power as mandatory minimums are legislated by Congress. They are basically forced to sentence based on certain conditions that defendant falls under. It's basically a grid chart that very often leads to overly harsh sentences. There have been countless federal judges who have publicly stated during sentencing that they wish they did not have to impose such a harsh sentence, but Congress has forced them to. State judges have about the appropriate power they should have in sentencing. Still, too many people are sentenced to overly harsh terms, usually for political reasons if they were elected, as judges who sentence to higher terms can run on a platform of being law and order judges. But I think that's beginning to change he made it political, not me, as even Republicans have started to agree with Democrats that our prison population is ridiculous compared to the rest of the civilized world. We are less than 5% of the world's population, yet we incarcerate 25% of the world's prisoners. We incarcerate at a far higher rate than any other Western democratic country, and I think that both the cost and the cost of people's lives is finally being realized by both sides of the aisle. And who wants the last word on that?
Well, I think when you compare us to the world, our system of justice provides more due process, more safeguards than any other country in the world. So I think that there are some places that are much more like the old wild, wild west than they are our current system of criminal justice.
You mean in the United States or like other countries?
Meaning you do something and the penalties are harsher and immediate.
Like in the U.S. or?
Like killing you. Not in the U.S.
Okay, so you're talking about Argentina or Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Right.
So
or any other country, I might add.
I mean, you can make your argument, if you will, that there are things that are crimes that you don't think should be. I believe Oregon has experimented with decriminalizing all drug offenses. That would certainly affect our prison population dramatically. I think it has other repercussions that are not very good for your community.
It is so tough, that problem. It's just...
But, I mean, in theory, there are things like that you can do that would lower your population. The question is, if you have laws, do you enforce them? And I know people are critical sometimes of, well, why are you getting all these people for driving while suspended and it's so hard to navigate?
Yeah, I do have a problem with that.
Okay. But that's where we rely. Just you were referencing in the federal system that Congress makes those laws.
Right.
In the state system, the legislature makes the laws. Mm-hmm. I, as a prosecutor, don't make the laws. I'm enforcing the laws. And if you don't like the laws, contact your legislatures and talk to your legislators and ask them to change things if you think it's wrong. But
that would take a groundswell of people.
It would. And apparently that happened in Oregon. And what is it? I think over half the states now have legalized or decriminalized marijuana in one
It's like
fashion or another.
37
So,
states,
I
I
mean,
believe.
that has been an evolution where public opinion has changed a lot of that. So, the law is evolving. I can take our little code book here that we put out every year.
Hold that up so everybody can see it. It says the Indiana Criminal Code for 2024.
Well, if I get into my cabinet, I can pull one out from 25 years ago that's about half the size.
There's more laws.
Well, and the legislature every year does stuff with it. Some years more than others.
Well, the day that they legalize marijuana, that will be something else. So, my right hand, do you want to say anything in closing? Because we are running over a little bit, and I do need to sign off.
Nope, I think we had a great discussion about sentencing and gave a little more understanding to the community on how that works.
The only way it could get better is to just focus on one. So, and we certainly have the material to do that.
Well, and that's what I wanted to just say, that it can be very confusing, and we get that, and there are a lot of factors that go into it, and we haven't even touched on plea agreements.
Oh, that would be a great one. Let's do that. Yeah.
But there's a lot of different factors that go into what the court does, what our office does. Probably 90 to 95% of cases are resolved through plea agreements, and but the courts have full discretion after a trial, and that's when most of their, I think, toughest sentences come in, when their discretion is at its greatest. Because otherwise, with a plea agreement, they are either accepting it or rejecting what we've submitted.
Well, that is tantalizing, and you're leaving it out there. And yes, we'll have to do that one. I'll put it on the list. Anyway, this has been The Probable Cause, our podcast covering the legal system here in Indiana. You can find the articles and the podcasts on YouTube. It is www.theprobablecause.com. You can also listen to us on Apple and Spotify. And don't forget about the Facebook page that is totally dedicated to The Probable Cause. So until next time, goodbye. This episode is filmed and edited by Frosty Pictures. The Probable Cause is produced by Maumee Media.
Worried when I crossed the Michigan line, a cop from Steuben County waiting on I-69. A headlamp went out while he pulled me over. Charged me with possession after I rolled down the window.
Now that's skunk.
Indiana's a trip when it comes to weed. It's like who doesn't smoke or use gummies? Your grandpa, your brother, your rich friend from school? Hell, throw in the whole courthouse and my attorney too. It's time those assholes change these stupid laws. It ain't worth the paper for a probable cause. Sitting on a bar stool in my usual place, this guy next to me said he was looking for some cocaine. Hell, I just sold him an 8-ball with a little piece off for me. But my buyer was a cop? Should've known he was a creep. So I'm a dealer, right? You gotta be kidding. It's a rich man's drug. I just take it because I'm injured. 8 years in Westville with a monkey on my back. There's more drugs in here than you can shake a shank at. One dirty drug test, man, this system's flawed. Undercover screwed me in my probable cause. Street crimes never did me no favors. I'm hooked on Fetty. I'm a junkie, not a felon. Told that son of a bitch on the way to lockup. I can't seem to shake it. I need help, not mocking. What do you want from someone who's been through the system? Drugs all through the house before mom and dad went to prison. Throw me in jail and give me a fine? Someday I'll be dead and away from your kind. Now I'm at the courthouse in front of a judge. Can't say my public defender cares for me much. Crimes are committed on both sides of the law. God help me now with this probable cause. C shift never gets old. Anything can happen when you're out on patrol. You think I'm just eating donuts, man? Give me a break. Nothing on this job is a piece of cake. Lights and sirens activated, this knucklehead wants to chase. Baby mama at the scene just spit in my face. Wife's worried that someday I won't be pulling up at all. You'll read about my killer in a probable cause. Man. She went through my phone and she seen my text. I told her forget it. It was just my ex. She took a swing and knocked me flat. Man, I went wild to get her back. Judge slapped me with a no contact order. Now she's got the kids and she's staying with her mother. So she started it all and I have to take the fall. You can read my whole story in the probable when I was young. Caught a case for dealing and did my time. Yeah, I got a record, but I was doing fine. Running my own business on the southeast side. Yeah, I got a gun. I kept it on hand. Told the cop my reason, thought he'd understand. In this neighborhood, you need some protection. Attorney thought I could get just community corrections, but the judge decided to send me to prison. Can't get ahead no matter how hard I try. Read the probable cause, it'll make you cry.
Whispers and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause.